What's up, guys? You asked for it. In today's video, we're going to compare Model X to Model Y. Stay tuned. So here we have it, Model X and Model Y. The biggest question I've gotten on Twitter and on YouTube is how do I like the Model Y versus our Model X, and how do they compare? It is a little bit, two completely different animals in some sense, but they do compare very well. And my question is how much is the Y going to cannibalize the Model X sales? I think we're going to be surprised at that. But the biggest question I get is about the interior space. How does it ride? And like the trunk space, how does that compare, Y versus X? Here's a hint, it's really close. Let's take a look. Alright, so let's take a look at Model Y first. Love that automatic hatch. So I'm going to measure straight down the middle to where the lip is, where the rubber gasket is, where it closes. I think that'll give us a good idea. And I'm measuring 46.5 inches. That's from the back of the seat to this rubber seal is 46.5 inches. Then we'll go from side to side. Let's do the bottom, kind of the bottom area first. It is, I would say, 40 inches. So 40 inches across here. Now this is the area that's interesting to me. It looks like it opens up a little wider here. So it definitely does open wider. So we're looking at probably 42 3/4. So 42 3/4 on this. So let's take a look at the X. Alright, so here we have the X. A nice automatic hatch. I don't know why it didn't go all the way up. Oh, probably because my settings for my garage. So we'll go all the way to the back of the seat. To the rubber gasket is 50 3/4. So 50 3/4. That's from the front. And I knew it was going to be deeper this way. I just wasn't sure how much. But it's definitely deeper there. So the bottom part is 41.5. So 41.5 on the bottom part here. And then up here, which is interesting, it's more straight. I think there's less room right here compared to the Y. Yeah, it's basically the same. I mean, 41.5. It's really close to the same. Maybe 41 1/4. So it's really close. So I'll throw those numbers up on the screen here so we can compare. The next question I get a lot is, what is the seating position in the X versus the Y? How do they compare? Is the X, does it sit up higher? Does the Y sit up higher or lower, or what? So we're going to answer that. Here's my seating position in the X. And I'm not going to put my foot on the brake because the door will close. So here's how I typically drive in the X in my seating position. You can see my leg position. It's pretty flat. Now let's look at the Y. All right, here's my seating position on the Y. It's really similar. I mean, just sitting in one and then sitting in the other, it's really close. It may be a little bit smaller, a little bit further down, but as you can see, my legs are pretty flat, pretty straightforward. The seating position is very similar. So let's move on to the next thing. All right, what about the rear passengers? Here you go. So I've got this seat pretty much set where I would sit in driving it. I just basically got out of it and went to the Y and then came over here and sat down. So you can see I've got about that much leg room. The falcon wing doors are cool though. All right, here's the Y. The leg room is, it's almost exactly the same. Truthfully, it's almost exactly the same. I've got, this seat is still set from where I sat in it just a while ago, and the leg room is almost exactly the same. So I'm not measuring it, but just sitting in it, you can see that it's pretty much the same. I think one thing people are going to ask about is how is the dash on the Model X versus the Model Y? You know, the X has a screen basically behind the steering wheel that gives you information and whatnot, and then it's got the vertical screen as far as the big screen to the right, whereas the Model Y has just the 15-inch horizontal screen in the middle. I'll show you both of them. Here's the driving and the seating position, how it looks out of, from my driver profile, how it would look outside in the Model X. All right, here is the seating position in the Model X. This is even with my face. Basically from my mouth and nose area, this is what I see. Obviously my eyes are a little bit above this, but this is basically my view out of the Model X, to give you an idea. So you've got the display here, and then you've got the vertical display here. But that's my view. Let's go take a look at Model Y. Alright, here is the view in the Model Y. This is basically the same position, and you can see there's no display here, just that terrible wood dash that is about to go away here in the next week or so. But there is my view, basically the same exact position. I'm holding it the same position as I was in the Model X. And there you've got the horizontal screen. Yes, I am in the car. I am in the Model Y, and what you just saw was out of the glass roof. And I think this is going to be one of the biggest advantages, in my opinion, on the Y versus the Model X. And it's going to be really hard to show you, but the view out of the back is absolutely incredible in the Model Y. Let me see if I can show you. So as you can see, the glass roof is just enormous in this car. You can see my house back there. So you can see there is no pillar in the middle of the glass. It is just a huge piece of glass, and it is incredible. So that view is definitely a +1 on the Model Y. So here we are in the Model X, and you can already see the difference. You can see this piece here is kind of restricting your view. Yes, you've got these smaller windows over here on the side, on each side, but it definitely restricts your view versus the Model Y. Let me try to get a panoramic type shot where I can show you guys the view. So by far, one of the biggest pluses of the Model X is the driver view. And you can see the glass goes basically right behind your head all the way down to the front. It's a really nice view, and that is one of the pluses for the Model X. But you have a limited view for the passengers, as you can see. So I want to show you guys, one of the cool things about the Model X is the falcon wing doors. It is an incredibly cool feature, but it's also one of the things that drove me and my wife crazy. If you guys have kids, and while they're very nice to be able to get kids in and out of, it's great for that. The problem is when the kids get a little bit older and they can start operating the falcon wing doors, they don't really pay attention when they're closing or opening the doors. And a lot of times if you're getting out or getting in at the same time, the door doesn't always kind of catch you, and we've had a couple of close calls. So let me show you kind of what happened or what can happen. I'm not sure if I can do that here with a one-man crew, but basically here's what can kind of happen. I'm going to start shutting the door, and then I'm going to try to get in my driver's side door like this. You have to kind of get out of the way of it. So the other thing that can happen is this. I'm going to try to open the door as I get out. And then of course, sometimes the door doesn't open all the way and you have to dodge it. So it's just kind of a pain. They're cool, but is it worth the money versus the why? I don't know, we're gonna keep talking about it. One of the other issues that we've had with our Model X falcon wing doors is they rub, and we have had this problem, and I've had 2 different service centers look at it. We had the one in Fresno look at it and they repaired it. Well, they didn't, but they sent it to a body shop to repair it. And then when we moved to Tennessee, we had another Tesla service center out there, which is not the service center. Again, it was a body shop, and they tried to repair it. We still haven't been able to repair it. They say that they're better on the newer models, supposedly, but I'm hearing from service, and I just talked to someone today, that they're always an issue. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So if you go down here on the pillar, this is where they want to rub. And then sometimes they'll rub down here. Ours is not rubbing down there, but it's definitely rubbing right there. Let me show you the other side. So here's the other side. Right here. And you can't rub it off. It is scuffed the paint. And then the other issue is right there in the same spot. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it's there. So one of the ways they repair it is basically they take it, they put some clear, basically PPF film over the spots that rub, and then when it rubs, eventually it will rub through, and they hope to replace the PPF right there before it rubs through and hits the paint. That's not a great option to me. I don't want to have to watch my doors all the time to make sure they're not rubbing. It shouldn't be that way. So that is kind of a bummer about Model X that we don't like. Like I said, the falcon wing doors are really cool, really flashy and all that, but is it worth the difference? That's the question versus Model Y. All right, so let's take a look at the frunk space. Of course, Model X is gonna be a bigger frunk. There's no doubt about that. It's a bigger car, but is it that much bigger? I don't know what it is in cubic feet, but basically to me, it just looks wider. Let's take a look. So there's the Model X frunk. It just looks wider. If you cut this off right here, I would say on both sides, that's about the size of Model Y. So it's really close. It's not a huge difference, but it is bigger. It's not deeper though. It's just wider. All right. So let's go take a look at Model Y now. Let's look at that. All right, and there's Model Y. So the X just kind of extends over here further, closer to the lights is basically what I'm seeing. It kind of extends this way. But as far as the depth, it's really close. Model Y, or I'm sorry, Model X might be a little bit deeper, but it's not much. So there's those. So is a frunk that important? Well, maybe if you're putting frunk puppies in it, right, Earl? So other than that, I don't know if it's, you know, a make or break thing, one frunk being larger than the other, but you know, it's just information for you guys. So let's take a look at the styling of each of these cars. As you can see, Model Y gets its styling from Model 3, very similar. And of course, Model X has the front fascia and the styling of Model S. But the interesting thing is, Model Y is, and I've heard this mentioned before, Model Y is pretty much, if you took a Model 3 and a Model X and you made a baby, you would get Model Y. Model 3 and Model X combined together, because it's got the styling of the Model 3, but it's got the slope and the way the rear end is of Model X. And you can see, if you took off the spoiler on Model X, it would be eerily similar to the styling and the slope of the back end. It's really close. So the rear end looks like the Model X and the front end looks like the Model 3. So after owning both of these cars, I mean, obviously we've only owned the Y for a week. I drove it today for about 30 minutes on the highway. Actually, it was an hour total. I drove it on the highway, and from someone that has owned both of these cars and very used to driving the X, and I feel like I'm familiar enough with the Y because I own the 3, so I'm familiar with the way that it drives. Let's go talk about the details of each, and let me give you an owner's perspective of driving both of these cars. Let's go inside. Okay, back inside. It's a lot cooler in here. So you're probably wondering, are we going to keep Model X and Model Y? The answer is no. We're going to turn back in the Model X. The Model X is a lease, and when we started to lease the Model X, we leased it knowing that hopefully that the Model Y would be out in time to take delivery before our Model X lease was up. And the reason we're going to return it is because the Model X will we won't drive it. It will sit in the garage and we won't drive it at all. And it's only got a couple more months. And also, we don't want to have to pay California to re-register it in California. It's right now registered in Nashville and Tennessee, and it has to have a current registration in order to turn it back in. And we don't want to pay the registration and then just keep it a couple more months and then turn it back in. That makes no sense to us. So we are going to pay, as of now, I've talked to Tesla, and basically if you pay the remaining months, you can return it. And that's it. It didn't seem like they were really willing to work with us or anything like that. So as of now, that's the plan. We're going to pay, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we're going to turn it back in. I wanted to make sure that I got this video done, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to keep it, and I haven't really pushed it yet. So here's the question. Here's the million-dollar question. If we were buying a car right now, would we buy a Model X or a Model Y? That's a good question. If it's us, we would buy a Model Y. Here's the reason. The Model Y is almost everything the Model X is. Pretty much. The trunk space is very similar, as you guys saw. It's not enough difference to us to make a difference. The area, which I didn't show, the area underneath the trunk, the lower trunk, is almost as big as Model X. And the trunk space is really similar. The front space, which we don't use that often, is really close also. So those two things are really similar. The seating position is very, very similar, as you guys also saw. So when driving it, and to me, the Model Y is more comfortable. It's more, I like the seats in the Model Y better than the Model X. They're just more comfortable. I sat in a Model S one time, or actually we had one for a week when we were having service on one of my first Model 3s, and I hated it. I don't like the seats in the Model S and the Model X. To me, they just, I don't know, I just don't like the way they feel. I like the Model 3 a lot. So the seats are exactly the same on Model Y. So to me, it's super comfortable. It's actually a more comfortable version of a Model 3. So with us, there's not enough difference there to justify the what, $30,000 difference. We did have a choice to buy our Model X. We could buy our Model X, and we've got about 33,000 miles on it. It's a 2017, but it does have the older MCU. We don't have the games, a lot of the games. We don't have dash cam. We don't have Netflix and all that kind of stuff. And it's a 2017, but we could buy it after the lease is over for $70,000. To us, we paid just over $50,000 for the Model Y. That's a huge difference in a used Model X with 33,000 miles on it and saving almost $20,000 and buying a brand new Model Y with all the features on it. So even just buying a used Model X versus a Model Y, to me, I would just buy a Model Y. And it makes the most sense to me. Now, my wife loves her Model X, and she likes the display behind the steering wheel. But the biggest reason she likes the Model X is the ride quality. So the Model X is on an air suspension. The Model Y rides very similar to the Model 3. They're very, very similar. There's a little bit more body roll, but it rides really similar to Model 3. So Model X definitely rides better. Does it ride $30,000 difference? I don't think so, and neither does my wife, which is why we made the decision to buy the Model Y instead of either buying a new Model X or buying our leased Model X. So that's kind of our thought process. It just, to me, I don't think there's enough difference between those two cars to justify the cost difference. Are the Falcon Wing doors in the Model X cool? Heck yeah, they're cool, man. I mean, the whole Christmas mode and, you know, doing all the dancing and all that kind of stuff, it's great. It's a party trick, but it's really cool. It is what Elon says, it's the Fabergé egg of vehicles. But here's my prediction, and I'm afraid to put this on YouTube, but here's my prediction. I think that the Model Y, first off, it's going to sell a ton, but I think the Model Y is going to eat into the Model X sales a lot. A lot. So much so that I think they may stop producing the Model X. And here's another reason I say that, is after talking to different service people, I've talked to the service people in Fresno, the service people in Nashville, and some of the people that I know up in Fremont. They always have issues with those Falcon Wing doors. They always rub. There's just always an issue. They are very over-engineered, and there's just always something wrong. So I just have a feeling that eventually, if the sales keep going down, they're going to get tired of just dealing with that, and they will just not manufacture the X anymore, and it'll just be the Y. I know it's I don't have anything to go by other than that. I just have a feeling that, just in my experience of being an X owner, if you have the money, buy a Model X. If money's not an option and it's not a big deal, and it is a better car in many aspects, for sure. But most people are going to look at the price difference, and they're going to look at videos like this and other videos on YouTube and see that the cars are not that much different, and unless they like the styling of the X better than the Y, that could be an issue too. But to us, my personal opinion, I would buy a Model Y over a Model X right now. So that's it. If you guys want to please leave some comments, I will do my best to answer them. I appreciate you guys watching this video. I've got some other videos coming up. We are going to customize our Model Y. As you know, I always do my cars. If you go back and look at my older videos, I can never keep things stock. And so we're going to do some custom things to the Model Y, even though, man, it looks really good the way it is stock. I mean, it looks fantastic, as you can see on the video. But if you want to leave some comments down below, I'll try to answer them. And please hit that subscribe button. Please subscribe and share. And if you know anybody looking at a Model X or a Model Y, show them this video. And that's it. We will see you guys on the next video. Take care. Peace.